I'm about to show you something most people will never notice about 1% of the population. You know that feeling when you're at a party and someone makes a comment that feels just slightly off, and while everyone else moves on laughing and forgetting, you're still thinking about it hours later, wondering if someone got hurt by those words. That person still thinking? That's probably an INFJ, and they're operating from a completely different rulebook than everyone else. Here's what's hidden in plain sight. This 1% follows an internal code so deeply embedded they don't even know they're doing it. These aren't Pinterest quotes or self-help mantras. These are DNA-level survival rules that control how they love, work, handle conflict, and decide who gets access to their inner world. Today, we're exposing the 11 unbreakable rules that INFJs follow no matter the cost. Break one of these, and you'll face genuine internal conflict. Follow them all, and you unlock the psychology behind one of the most misunderstood personality types on the planet. Before we start, please hit the like button, comment, and subscribe so you won't miss any of our weekly deep dives into the world of personality types. And if you're looking for a deeper understanding of yourself and your INFJ personality, browse our favorite INFJ products in the description and click the link in the comments to take our favorite free personality test. Rule 1. Protecting people's feelings comes before everything. Let's start with the foundation rule number 1. Protecting people's feelings comes before everything. INFJs don't just care about hurting feelings, they lose sleep over it. When an INFJ realizes they might have said something that landed wrong, they'll replay that conversation endlessly, analyzing every word, tone, and facial expression. This isn't drama, it's genuine emotional weight. You'll see this everywhere at work. An INFJ stays silent during meetings, even when they disagree, because speaking up might make a coworker feel defensive. They swallow their opinion to avoid tension at home. They let small annoyances slide rather than start conversations that might hurt their partner. In friendships, they listen to the same story for the 100th time without showing frustration. What's fascinating is this isn't about being fake. INFJs aren't lying when they hold back. They're making a conscious choice that emotional safety matters more than complete authenticity in that moment. The challenge is, others don't understand this. They feel shut out, not realizing the INFJ is actually protecting them. Rule 2. Never share everything about yourself. This surprises people because INFJs seem to understand everyone so deeply. But here's the truth. While they're reading you like a book, they keep their own story locked tight. INFJs share carefully, reveal slowly, and almost never dump their full emotional weight onto others. This comes from two places. First, INFJs are intensely private. Their inner world is rich, complex, full of thoughts and insights. They process constantly, but they don't automatically share that with everyone. They're selective, spending months or years before revealing certain parts of themselves. Second, INFJs worry about being a burden if they share too much. They might overwhelm someone, make them uncomfortable, damage the relationship. So they hold back, keep struggles private, process internally before letting anyone see what's happening, even with closest people. INFJs rarely share everything. They protect parts of themselves, not because they don't trust, but because they've learned complete vulnerability comes with costs. Rule 3. Your word is sacred. When an INFJ makes a promise, it becomes part of their identity. If they say they'll do something, they'll move mountains to make it happen. This rule isn't negotiable. An INFJ would rather exhaust themselves completely than break a commitment. This shows up practically. If an INFJ tells you they'll call Tuesday, they call Tuesday. If they promise to help you move, they show up with coffee and energy, even on 3 hours sleep. If they commit to a work project, you can count on follow-through, despite complications. But it goes deeper than showing up. INFJs feel profound responsibility to their word. Breaking a promise feels like moral failure. It's not just letting someone down, it's violating core identity. An INFJ who breaks commitment carries guilt for a long time. This means INFJs are extremely careful about commitments. They won't say yes lightly. They think through whether they can actually follow through before promising. This sometimes makes them seem reluctant or cautious, but they're being responsible. They know their limits and won't cross lines they can't come back from. The flip side is INFJs expect the same commitment from others. When someone breaks a promise to an INFJ, it hurts deeply. It's not just broken commitment, it feels personal, like betrayal of important principle. An INFJ might struggle trusting that person moving forward. Rule 4. Lock intense emotions away in public. INFJs experience emotions intensely. They feel things deeply. But nobody needs to see all of that in public or professional settings. INFJs maintain calm, composed exterior. They might be churning inside, but show steady face to the world. This protects them. They know showing too much emotion makes people uncomfortable, seems unprofessional, leads to misunderstandings. So they regulate emotional display carefully. It's also about control. INFJs like feeling in control of emotions and presentation. They don't like vulnerability in front of others, especially where that vulnerability might be weaponized later. The challenge is people can't tell when an INFJ is struggling. They seem fine outside, so others assume they're fine inside. Nobody realizes how much they're dealing with privately. The INFJ might manage anxiety, process grief, work through major crisis, but exterior gives nothing away. This creates isolation. The INFJ keeps struggles private. Then people don't know how to help. Even caring people might not realize something's wrong until it's serious. These 4 rules create the INFJ's protective shell, but protection is just the foundation. Rule 5. See multiple perspectives before judging. INFJs have this incredible ability to put themselves in other people's shoes. It's not just empathy. It's more, they can actually imagine how the world looks from someone else's point of view. And they follow a strict rule. They won't judge someone or situation until they've genuinely tried to understand it from multiple angles. This means INFJs are often more forgiving than other people when someone hurts them. Their first instinct isn't anger. It's curiosity about why that person acted that way. What was happening in their life? What pressures were they under? What fears might have driven them to do that thing? This perspective taking makes INFJs incredible mediators and counselors. They help people see situations from angles they never considered. They bridge divides because they genuinely understand both sides of conflict. But this rule has a downside. Sometimes INFJs can be too forgiving. They make excuses for people who hurt them repeatedly. They struggle to set boundaries because they understand too well why someone is being difficult. They let themselves be used or mistreated because they keep finding reasons to excuse behavior. Also, not everyone appreciates constant perspective taking. Some people feel like an INFJ is being wishy-washy or never takes firm stand. They don't realize the INFJ is actually taking a firm stand. It's just a stand that says, I'm going to understand this fully before deciding how I feel about it. Rule 6. Never waste time on superficial connections. INFJs are notoriously selective about relationships. They don't make random friends. They don't do shallow connections. This is a rule they follow almost without thinking. Relationships need depth and meaning, or they're not worth the time. This means INFJs have fewer friends than many personality types, but their friendships tend to be much deeper. They're willing to invest serious time and energy in relationship, but only if they believe that relationship has genuine potential for real connection. Small talk drives INFJs crazy. At a party, they'd rather have one meaningful conversation with one person than spend the evening making shallow connections with everyone in room. They want to know what people actually think. What do they care about? What makes them tick? What are they struggling with? This rule protects INFJs from spreading themselves too thin emotionally. They have limited energy for relationships, so they invest it where it's going to count. But it also means INFJs can struggle in social situations requiring surface-level interaction. Networking event or large party feels exhausting and pointless to an INFJ. even though these situations are often important for career advancement. Because INFJs are so selective about relationships, people sometimes feel hurt if an INFJ doesn't want to be close to them. They interpret this as rejection, not understanding that INFJ simply doesn't form connections easily with most people. It's nothing personal. It's just how INFJs operate. Rule 7. Trust intuition over logic. INFJs have incredible intuitive abilities. They pick up on things others miss. They sense when something's wrong, even if they can't immediately identify what. They know when someone's being dishonest. They understand deeper meaning behind what people say, not just words. And here's the rule. INFJs trust this intuition. They follow gut feeling, even when they can't fully explain why, even when it goes against logic or what other people think. This is real strength. INFJs often have accurate instincts about people and situations. They can warn someone away from bad relationship or sketchy business deal before concrete problems show up. They sense when something's off in family or friend group. But this rule comes with catch. Sometimes INFJs trust intuition so much they don't check it against reality. They might read too much into situation. They might interpret something as red flag when it's actually misunderstanding. They might hold negative judgments about someone even after that person has genuinely changed. Also, other people often don't understand or respect this rule. They want logical explanations. They want concrete evidence. When INFJ says, "I just have bad feeling about this," others dismiss it as irrational. They don't understand the INFJ is picking up subtle cues. Their conscious mind hasn't fully processed yet. Rule 8. Stand up for values no matter the cost. INFJs have strong values. They know what they believe, and they're willing to stand up for those beliefs, even when it's uncomfortable. This is one of the most defining rules of INFJ personality. When something goes against core values, an INFJ will speak up. They might do it carefully, but they'll do it. They won't just go along with something they believe is wrong. They might stay quiet to avoid hurting feelings. But if something really matters, if it's genuine moral issue, they'll find a way to take a stand. This makes INFJs seem like quietly powerful people. They're not aggressive about beliefs, but they're genuinely committed. They'll face social consequences to stand up for what they believe is right. They'll sacrifice career advancement if job goes against values. They'll end relationships if someone asks them to compromise on something fundamental. The challenge is, people sometimes mistake INFJ's quiet strength for weakness. They think an INFJ will be easy to push around because they're soft-spoken and empathetic. But they'd be wrong. INFJs have backbone made of steel when it comes to things that really matter. This rule also means INFJs can sometimes be inflexible about values. They might judge others harshly for not sharing same values. They might create distance in relationships because other person doesn't align with their moral code. Rule 9. Create meaningful impact, not busy work. INFJs don't do things just to do them. They need to see meaning in what they're doing. They need to understand how their work, relationships, and life is making some kind of actual difference. This is a fundamental rule that guides their choices. This is why so many INFJs end up in helping professions, like counseling, education, social work, or healthcare. These fields offer a chance to genuinely impact people's lives. An INFJ working as therapist or teacher or nurse feels like they're doing something that matters. But this rule goes beyond career choices. It influences how INFJs approach everything. They want friendships to mean something. They want family relationships to be real and connected. They want personal projects to contribute value, even if that value is just to themselves. The downside is INFJs struggle with tasks that feel meaningless. Boring administrative work, pointless meetings, projects that serve no real purpose. These things drain INFJ energy quickly. An INFJ might procrastinate endlessly on tasks that doesn't feel meaningful, even though they'll work tirelessly on something that does. This rule also means INFJs can be dissatisfied in jobs that pay well but don't feel meaningful. They might leave lucrative career path to do something that feels more purposeful, even if it pays less. Other people might not understand this choice, but to an INFJ, it makes perfect sense. Rule 10. Protect inner peace fiercely. INFJs are introverts, and they need quiet time to recharge. But more than that, they follow strict rule about protecting their inner peace. They know external chaos and drama drain them quickly, so they guard against it. This means INFJs are often protective of their personal space and time alone. They need periods of solitude to process, to think, to just be. If they don't get this time, they become irritable, overwhelmed, and exhausted. It also means INFJs are selective about what information they let into their space. They might avoid certain news sources because constant negativity drains them. They might limit time with people who are particularly demanding or dramatic. They might create boundaries around how much they'll engage with other people's problems, even though they genuinely care. This rule isn't selfish. It's actually essential for INFJ's well-being. They understand they can't help others effectively if they're completely depleted. So they protect their own peace as a way of ensuring they have something to give. The challenge is, people sometimes interpret this as coldness or rejection. They might not understand why INFJ won't come to an event, or why they need days alone, or why they're backing away from friendship that feels too demanding. They think INFJ is being distant or doesn't care. But really, INFJ is just maintaining boundaries. They need to stay healthy. Rule 11. Process everything internally first. INFJs rarely make snap decisions. They process, they think. They analyze situations from every angle before they take action. This is such a core part of how they operate. It's almost like rule written into their DNA. When something happens to INFJ, they need time alone to process it. They need to think through what it means, how it affects them, what they should do about it. They might not share what's happening with anyone for a while because they're still working through it in their mind. This can make INFJs seem slow to respond. Someone might tell them something important, and INFJ will say they need to think about it. Days might pass before INFJ responds with their thoughts. But when they finally do respond, they've usually worked through it thoroughly. They've considered different angles. They've thought about implications. Their response is usually thoughtful and well considered. The upside of this rule is INFJs don't tend to make major mistakes driven by emotional reactions. They think things through. They consider consequences. The downside is people sometimes interpret this need for processing as disinterest or avoidance. They feel like INFJ doesn't care if they're not responding immediately with emotion and engagement. These 11 rules aren't random quirks. They're strategic survival code that's been refined through lived experience. They protect the INFJ's energy, preserve their authenticity, and ensure they operate from their zone of genius. Understanding these rules changes everything. Whether you're an INFJ recognizing your own patterns, or someone who loves an INFJ finally getting why they do what they do. Click the link in the comments to take our favorite free personality test, and subscribe for more insights into the INFJ mind. If you want to continue the journey to understanding yourself or an INFJ in your life, click either of the following videos, where we continue to unlock the secrets of the INFJ personality type.